You just wanna do what you feel because you're living in the flesh. You got comfort in captivity, but this is not your rest. Micah 2 and 10. We ain't adopt European culture, it was pushed on us. This nation ain't under God, they enemies of him. Everything he told us don't do, they making it legal. Killing babies before birth, man, abortion is evil. A child is a child, even if it's a fetus. I'm tired of the lies, all they do is mislead us. On my knees, I'm pleading, and a lie don't believe them. They deceitful creatures, such as dry like leeches. On our ancestors back, they built this wicked nation. Ain't no way to make it right, it ain't no justification. Here counsels on our behalf to set up indoctrination. LGBTQ, I don't care, it's abomination. You can't counsel me, cause I don't want the fame. I just wanna wake up my people and break the chain. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So how you gonna say you got faith when you ain't got no words? Gotta afflict your flesh. You put the Most High first, but you just wanna get drunk and you just wanna pop earth, but you just wanna get high until you ride the earth. He don't want lip service, it's the heart he serves. If we keep the commandments, we could break these curses. Listen close to these verses. The scripture immersed in them. To repent from sin, you gotta stop living in them. Them snakes got venom in them. The strike will kill you. That life you're living will leave you defenseless. Wake up, Israel. This might be your last chance. MJ last dance. You can't come back. Take advantage of the life you were blessed with. Get the Most High that attention that your flesh get. I know it feel good, but it's killing y'all. Use the Bible like a mirror, fix your spirit up. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel.
Shalom, shalom. Call Allah Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. All praise to the Most High. Brother Aaron got a lesson today, and it's going to be called The Doctrine Matters. And whenever the brother gets ready, he can share his screen if he's going to share his screen. Let me put this. All right, there we go. But shalom, everybody. If y'all could go ahead and like and share the video so we can get as much traction as possible on this word.
Hey, Shalom, can I be heard?
Shalom. You good?
I got my screen shared. First and foremost, I have some music in the background. But first and foremost, I'm gonna start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, and I'm gonna do so in the name of His beloved Son of Mashiach, Yahushua. Definitely big the water to the brother Hurt. Continuing to be, consistent. All praises to the Most High for putting the spirit on that brother to, just continue to be in the spirit of, the work, pushing his truth out. Right. But without anything further, the topic for the lesson is the doctrine does matter. Right. So I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I got my screen share. I gotta have it added to the stream. But Baba Kasha, if you could you have my screen to the chat or to the stream? Con the water. So first we're gonna go to the word for doctrine, which is Strong's G1322, and it's the Greek word. Let me make sure. And it's the Greek word didache, right? And when you look at what this word means, it just means teaching, that which is taught, right? And it's other things that are synonymous with, teaching or instructions or things of that sort, right? So now that we have the meaning of doctrine, let's go to the book of Revelation, the 2nd chapter. If you could, brother, could you read Revelation chapter 2, verse 12 on down to 15?
Con. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with two edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate.
Right. So let's take a look at real quick verses 12 and 13. It says, unto the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with two edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwells. Right? So essentially, Yahweh Shah, he's addressing the church, which is in Pergamum, which is, in Asia Minor. And he makes mention, of their endurance and holding fast to his name, even to the point of death. That's why he mentions, Antipas, who was a martyr. Right. But a quick side note, something that's worth mentioning is, in verse 13, where Yahweh Shah calls Pergamum where Satan dwells, right? And this, is because, the city of Pergamum, was a capital city of the Roman Empire, right? And just to prove this, I'm gonna pull out a source. And if you could, Baba Kashai, could you read this? I'm gonna enlarge my screen. And I'm gonna highlight the part I need you to read.
Con.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it like this, actually. Just enlarge it this way. And just to cite the source, this is out of the Zondervan Atlas of the Bible. If you could, brother, could you read this part right here?
Con.
And I'm
Pergamum.
I'm gonna make it larger so you can see it.
Con the water. I got some good vision. Sheesh. Pergamum is located 16.5 miles inland from the Aegean Sea, and thus was not a port city like its rival, Smyrna and Ephesus. This powerful city and its territory were willed to Rome on the death of Attalus III in 133 BC. In 129 BC, When Rome created the province of Asia, Pergamum became its early capital. In 29 BC, it was the first city to be granted permission to establish a temple dedicated to a Roman emperor, namely to Augustus, ruled 27 BC to AD 14.
So basically, this is saying that Pergamum became a capital city of the Roman Empire. Right. So now let's get the word for Pergamos in the Greek. So we're gonna go to Revelation 2:12 and look at this word. And it's gonna be pronounced Pergamos. And you see height of elevation. And this is crucial right here as well. This outline A, but I want to read it in the Thayer's Greek lexicon. And Og, if you could you read? Let me see. I think right here. So could you read? I'm gonna highlight it. Could you read this? Yeah, this is fine.
A city of major in Asia Minor, the seat of the dynasties of Attalus and Eumenes, celebrated for the temple of Asclepius and the invention.
So basically it's speaking to the fact that in Pergamos, because we already read from the source that it was a capital city of the Roman Empire, and before that it was a significant city, of the Greeks. But we see a familiar phraseology, the seat, right? As we looked at in Revelation 2:12, it said Satan's seat. But if we look here, it's noted as the seat of the dynasties of Attalus and Eumenes, right? Which, that's Greek royalty, so literally King Attalus III, which, we're going to get a source for that as well. He ruled in Pergamos, and, it's known as his seat, right? And Yahushua says Pergamos is the seat or Satan's seat, Salakia, right? So this is literally Yahushua likening, these Edomite rulers to Satan, right? But let's get another source, just to touch more on this. Let's minimize this. Matter of fact, let's go back. Oh, snap. Man, I got a million screens just up on here. Salakia.
I'm liking that picture though.
The water cake. God.
See, if that was an Android computer though.
Yeah, cuz she'll say that. Yeah, me actually.
Shalom to the brothers and the rest of the family that's just coming into the stream. If you could, go ahead and like the video, share it to your social media so we can continue getting the Most High's word out. And Shalom.
And real quick, could you read right here where it says 133 BC? Can I be heard? Well, matter of fact, hey everybody, can y'all put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me?
You should be good.
Okay. Yeah, can you read 133 BC right here? The water.
Blow it up a little bit.
Con, I got you.
There we go. In line with the will of the last Pergamic king, Attalus III, the territory of the Pergamonic kingdom passes under the power of Rome. This is the official date of the formation of the Roman province of Asia. However, the real power of Rome over Western Anatolia is only firmly established in 130 BC, after Aristarchus rising is put down.
Con, and just to cite this source, this is from Greek fortifications of Asia Minor, 500 to 130 BC, from the Persian Wars to the Roman conquest, and this is by Constantine's Nosaf, and this is from page 12, just to cite the source. All right, but we see that that's obviously proven that Pergamum was given to the Roman Empire by the Greeks, which we seen Emperor or King Attalus, which was a Greek king, right? Attalus III. So we see it was given to the Greeks, right? But the biggest point, in me pointing this all out, is that Yahushua says that the church in Pergamum dwells where Satan's seat is, and we see that these Edomite rulers, kings, and emperors, this place is likened or called their seat, literally, so this is just a quick proof to show that Yahushua calls or likens, the so-called white man to Satan, so to just a quick side note, right? But let's go back to the book of Revelation, the 2nd chapter. And if you could, brother, could you read verse 14 down to 15?
Con. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate.
Right. So Yahushua, says this church has members within their congregation that hold to the doctrine of Balaam, which, he taught that, that teaching is dealing with eating food sacrificed to idols, right? So essentially it endorsed idolatry, because eating food sacrificed to idols indeed is idolatry, right? And he also said, that this congregation had them that hold to the doctrine or the teaching of the Nicolaitans as well. And Yahushua said he hated that doctrine, right? And, and just for the record, the Nicolaitans, that basically, if you're not familiar with their doctrine, they taught that the way that, you lived, it didn't matter, because, basically because of grace, right? A believer is justified by grace through faith. It doesn't matter, if you live holy or not. That was basically their philosophy and teaching. But just I'm gonna grab a quick source on the Nicolaitans, and Baba Kasha, if you could you read? If you could you just read just the first two paragraphs?
Con. Nicolaitans, a term appearing in the Revelation 2:6-15, describing members of Christian congregations who held a doctrine that the Lord hated. Irenaeus said that they were followers of Nicholas or of Antioch, a proselyte who was among the 7 men chosen to serve the Jerusalem congregation, who had forsaken true Christian doctrine. He said they lived in unrestrained indulgence. Hippolytus confirmed this by noting that Nicholas left correct doctrine and had the habit of indifference as to what a man ate and as to how he lived. Refutation of Heresies 7:24. The apostolic constitutions describe them as shameless in uncleanliness. Although Clement of Alexandria defended Nicholas by insisting that his followers had misunderstood him, he observed that the Nicolaitans abandoned themselves to pleasures like goats in a life of shameless self-indulgence. In the letter to the church at Pergamum, the Nicolaitans were associated closely with those people who held the teaching of Balaam. This may have been a play on words. Nicolaitans could have been derived from two words, Nikon, which meant to conquer, and Laos, which meant people. Likewise, Balaam could be derived from two Hebrew words, Bela, which meant to conquer, and Ham, which meant people. Nicholas and Balaam would then be the the Greek and Hebrew forms of the same name, descriptive in each instance of an evil teacher who had influence over the people and brought them into bondage to heresy.
Khan. So, we see that Nicholas is mentioned, in the Bible, and, we read more history, or we can read more history, about him and his followers in a second, but just to speak on him a little bit, if you let's go to the book of Acts, because you'll actually find him called as one of the chosen deacons, I believe one of the 7 deacons, right? So let's go to the book of Acts chapter 6. We're gonna read verse 5. But could you read Acts 6 and 5?
Con. And the saying pleased the whole multitude, and they chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Ghost, and Philip, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, and Nicholas, a proselyte of Antioch.
Right. So we see that Nicholas was one of the 7 deacons, that were chosen. Right. But let's look at his name in the Greek, and let's look at a certain note, right? Because that article it mentioned, and just to cite that source, that's from Bible Gateway. But that particular excerpt from Bible Gateway mentioned that Nicholas and Balaam's name mean the same thing, to conquer the people, or to conquer, right? And you see victor of the people, same thing. But when you look at the definition, you see victorious over the people, Nicholas, a heretic, right? So we see that he's regarded, throughout history as a heretic. And we even see, because we looked at, when we looked at the encyclopedia, we seen that, some brothers came to his defense, like, the brother Clement of Alexandria, and they said that, it wasn't Nicholas's fault, just his followers, they went off, but even still, we see that what came out of him, or his fruit, what came from him, they were obviously wicked and off, right? But let's go back into the source. If you could you read let's see, could you read all the way, matter of fact, could you read all the way to the end? You can start a story is recorded.
Con.
The water.
A story is recorded of the seduction of the Israelites into immoral and idolatrous unions with the women of Moab. Had this situation not been checked, Israel would have been destroyed as a nation. Attributed the success of this seduction of God's people to the evil influence of a prophet named Balaam, who advised Balak, king of Moab, to follow such a course of action. Balaam became therefore in Hebrew history a symbol of an evil man who led God's people into immorality and sin. The letter to the church of Pergamum specifically charged them with having seduced people into eating meat offered to idols and into acts of fornication. The decree of the Jerusalem Council had laid down also two specific conditions upon which Gentiles were to be admitted into Christian fellowship. They were to abstain from things offered to idols and from fornication. These were the very regulations which the Nicolaitans violated. They were a people who used Christian liberty as an occasion for the flesh. Against such, Paul warned. The enticement to such a course of action was the pagan society in which Christians lived, where eating meat offered to idols was common. Sex relations outside marriage were completely acceptable in such a society. The Nicolaitans attempted to establish a compromise with the pagan society of the Greco-Roman world that surrounded them. The people most susceptible to such teaching were, no doubt, the upper classes, who stood to lose the most by a separation from the culture to which they had belonged before conversion. It may be that the doctrine of the Nicolaitans was dualistic. They probably reasoned that the human body was evil anyway, and only the spirit was good. A Christian, therefore, could do whatever he desired with his body, because it had no importance. The spirit, on the other hand, was the recipient of grace, which meant that grace and forgiveness were his, no matter what he did. They were those ready to compromise with the world. They were judged by the author of Revelation to be most dangerous because the result of their teaching would have conformed Christianity to the world rather than have Christianity change the world. Eusebius indicated that this sect did not last very long, and in all probability, the only knowledge of their teaching that is possible will be found in the slight references to them in Revelation.
Yeah, and I think I wasn't even gonna speak on this part, but I think this is always, every time I read this is always laughable because it says
You gotta say it, because I was thinking of what I was reading it.
It said, Eusebius indicated that this sect did not last very long, and in all probability, the only knowledge of their teaching that is possible will be found in slight references to them in Revelation. Well, if we're going off of everything we just read, this sounds just like modern Christianity today.
And they say some of the same exact things in that passage.
I've literally heard some of our Christian brothers and sisters go with these same talking points, right? So something that the Nicolaitans had an issue with, that like our Christian brothers and sisters have an issue with, is what we call syncretism, right? And syncretism in essence is just the mixing of schools of thought. And what you have with the Nicolaitans, is that they try to mix the teachings of Yahushua with the lawlessness of the world, right? And that's why, this source spoke to, them trying to justify being a follower of Yahushua and being able to conform to the world at the same time, because they were trying to mix their quote unquote religion or discipline with pop culture. And we see that Yahushua has a huge issue with this particular philosophy or doctrine, right? And the other false doctrines being held to, right? So what we should deduce from this is that doctrine does matter, right? Because believing in and holding to certain teachings, especially salvific, can cause the Lord to have aught or issues with you, lest you repent, right? But if you continue on in, these understandings, these teachings, and, living in those particular ways, ultimately, the Lord is going to deal with you harshly. All right, but let's go back to Revelation 2. You read Revelation 2 and verse 15 through 16.
So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. Repent or else I will come into thee quickly, and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth.
So, this right here, it shows the importance of doctrine, or teaching that you hold to, and how it does matter, right? And before I move on from this particular point, do any brothers want to get in there and add any points before I move on to the next script? Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 16, and we're gonna start at verse 5. If you could you read Matthew 16?
I didn't unmute it,
Yeah.
but basically that precept is that he's going to fight with, against them with the sword of his mouth. It's not talking about, it's talking about the wicked, and so that way we get an understanding of that. If you'll go to Psalms chapter 17, verse 13.
17 and 13.
God.
Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword.
God. And so basically he was saying if they did not repent and turn away, that he was going to send the wicked to persecute them or whatever they was going to do. Just to expound on that.
Beautiful point out the water. If you could you read Matthew 16, verse 5 on down to 6?
And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yahushua said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees.
So Yahushua told his disciples to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And essentially what he's saying to them right here is to guard themselves from their leaven. And in this context, the leaven is referring to their teachings, or their doctrine, right? And we know, because of the totality of scripture, that both of these sects, taught, extra doctrines that weren't biblical or found in the scriptures, right? But, before I go on to prove that, let's jump down to verse 8 on down to 12 to prove that Yahushua is referring to doctrine. If you could you read verse 8 on down to 12?
Which when Yahushua perceived, he saith unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves, because ye have brought no bread? Do ye not understand? Neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets ye took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets ye took up? How is it that ye do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees.
And so, throughout verses 8 on down to 12, Yahushua makes it clear and hammers home the point that he's not referring to, carnal bread in the aspect of you eating it, right? But he's referring, to doctrine, and he's telling his disciples to guard themselves from their doctrine, right? So again, this is another example of how Yahushua is teaching, that the doctrine does matter, right? Because he tells his followers to be on guard against certain doctrines, right? And just to, like I mentioned earlier, just to prove, that both of these sects, taught, often false doctrines, let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 15. Let's go a chapter earlier, right? And if you could you read verses 1 and 2?
Then came to Yahushua scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do the disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
Right. So first off, we see the scribes and Pharisees they're stepping to Yahushua, and they ask him why his disciples don't obey their tradition, right? So they're pressing him, on his followers being disobedient, to something that isn't in the law of God, so they're already straddling the fence of, enforcing something that, enforcing something as, it's the law of Moses, but it isn't the law of Moses, right? But this isn't even, the worst part of this encounter. Let's jump down to verse 3, and you can read on down to 6.
Lock it out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I tapped back on that button for a second by accident. All right. What scripture was that?
Verse 3 on down to 6.
But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition.
Salaki. But Yahushua, he retorts, their pressing by asking them why they violate or transgress the commandment of the Most High, and what he's referring to is honoring your parents, right, and not cursing them, or else you'll be put to death, right? That's in the book of Leviticus 20. Let me pull that up real quick so we could read that. And if you could you read Leviticus 20 and 9?
For everyone that curseth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. He have cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him.
Right. So, Yahushua says, they're guilty of violating that commandment, because of the tradition or doctrine that they teach. Right. Let's go back to Matthew 15. And could you read verses 5 through 6 one more time?
But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition.
Right. So Yahushua explains how they say, you can tell your parents, that you're going to give, a gift to the Most High, and you don't have to honor them. That's why in verse 6, it says he shall be free, and contextually speaking, to honor your parents, it means to, to hold them in high regard or to consider them weighty. So by their doctrine, they provide a way for you not, to consider them weighty or in high regard. Right. And of course, we know according to the scriptures, that's off. And, of course, we know that the law and things of those sort, Yahushua, he's not going to contradict, what Yahweh commanded Moses in the law, and Moses is not going to contradict himself. So obviously, if these two witnesses, being Yahushua and Yahweh, aren't going to contradict themselves, if it's another party, throwing in a way for you to contradict, then we know that this doctrine is going off, right? But let's go to a witness, that speaks to the importance, or the significance of honoring your parents, right? Could you read for me the book of Sirach, chapter 3, and could you read 1 on down to 8?
Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter, that ye may be safe. For the Lord hath given the father honor over the children, and have confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins. And he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Whoso honoreth his father shall have joy of his own children, and when he maketh his prayer, he shall be heard. He that honoreth his father shall have a long life, and he that is obedient unto the Lord shall be a comfort to his mother. He that feareth the Lord will honor his father, and will do service unto his parents, as to his masters. Honor thy father and mother, both in word and deed, that a blessing may come upon thee from them.
Right. So again, it's significant to honor your parents, chiefly because Yahweh and Yahushua said to do so, but also another reason is because you lay up treasure, and you can receive long life and blessings can come upon you, right? But all this, because we read this, with like within a myriad of places within Scripture, but this is another showing of why the doctrine does matter, and this would have been one of the reasons why Yahushua is telling his followers, hey, beware or be cautious, or keep yourselves on guard against the doctrine these brothers that's out here teaching within the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because they're teaching things like this, or things against this, by proxy, with certain doctrines that they were bringing out, right? But since I proved, I showed an off doctrine with the Pharisees, let's deal with the Sadducees, right? Let's go back to Matthew 16, and we're gonna look at the word for Sadducee real quick.
And you got a question whenever you get ready to answer it.
Let's deal with that question. Says what does it mean when you curse your father or mother? Right. So if we understand the Hebraic context behind what it means to honor your parents, it means to hold them weighty, or highly, or hold them in high regard. Right, but let's go to Leviticus 20:9, and let's get the word for curse. Right. So this word for curse is going to be it's yakwalo, but it's qualo because it's just he curse, or he curseth. And so it's just going to be the polar opposite, to be slight. All right. To be of little account, to make despicable, to make lighten, to treat with contempt. So basically, you would hold your parents, in the highest regard and the highest esteem. You'll do anything for your parents, of course, lawful, in that sense. But, when you curse your parents, it's literally the opposite of the spectrum. You don't do for your parents. You don't look out for your parents. You don't, hold them in that regard. They're not important to you. They're light to you. So in that way, that's how you curse. That's what it means to curse your parents, from a Hebraic standpoint. Kind of not. You could put a 1 if you can understand that. And if any of you brothers want to add to it, y'all definitely can.
Yeah, you said it beautifully.
All praises.
But
where was I at? Matthew 16. So we're gonna look at all praises up. So we're gonna look at the Greek word for Sadducees, which is sedekaos, I believe. Sedekaos. And if you could you read could you just read the outline of biblical usage?
Sadducees, the righteous. A. a religious party at the time of Christ among the Jews who denied that the oral law was a revelation of God to the Israelites and who deemed the written law alone to be obligatory on the nation as the divine authority. They denied the following doctrines: resurrection of the body, immortality of the soul, existence of spirits and angels, divine predestination, and affirmed free will.
Right. So we see a list of doctrines that they either affirmed or rejected, right? But their stance, on these particular doctrines, we most people that read the Bible just from a sincere standpoint, they can see this in the scriptures, right? But one of the biggest things, because we already know they denied the resurrection. We see that in Matthew 22 and I think Acts 23. But one of the biggest things I found out is that they denied divine predestination and they affirmed free will, right? And I went and I did a little bit of digging, and I want to show you all this source, right? And this is from the World of the New Testament, Cultural, Social, and Historical Context by Joel B. Green. And let me try to show it on my screen. This is from page 222. And let me get it on the screen. If you could you read this highlighted part? I'm not going to read all of it. Con, this part right here.
Con. For example, the manuscript teaches the importance of fate, Salaki, whereas the Sadducees oppose the predestinarian theology and instead emphasize free will and human responsibility.
Con, and basically, if anybody wants this book, I could place it in the comments. But contextually speaking, what this is talking about is they're trying to figure out who wrote this document or this written work called the 4QMMT, right? And it has certain doctrines and things of that sorts in there, and they're trying to narrow it down to who wrote it. And some believed during that time that it was the Sadducees that wrote it, and then some believed it was the Essenes, right? And a lot of people believe that it was the Sadducees because a lot of them had priestly roots, and that was reflected within this particular document. But something else that the document would touch on is the importance of fate. And the Sadducees, they oppose fate or destiny or what's going to happen. They believe that we have the ability to control what's going to happen, right? So so when it says they opposed a predestinatarian theology, they would be they would be like what you would call an open theist, right? They believe that the Most High is open and he lets you determine it, but we obviously know, according to the scriptures, that's abiblical, right? And I wasn't going to go fully on this, but I'm going to just show a precept real quick. Let's go to the book of Psalm 137. I love to read this in the NLT. I want to switch it. And if you could, it's not 137. I think it's 136. Let me try to find that. Is it Con. This is it. So this is the book of Psalms, chapter 139. And we're going to read verse 16 in the NLT, if you could.
Con. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed.
Con. And it's a plethora of other places we can go in the Bible to outline the same understanding and teaching. And like that, we'll be able to shatter, the idea of free will, or anyone that, wants to believe that is, things are open. You can, change things, the Most High doesn't already have it written out. Right. But yeah, that's that.
Go to Romans 8:30 real quick, just to add on to it.
Con for sure. Romans 8:30.
Con. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. And whom he called, them he also justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified.
Con, and that's clean.
Con. Roman 9, the same thing.
Romans not. It's so many places. You know what I'm saying? But like we obviously we can see that those things that and those doctrines that all of them brothers were kicking, whether they were within the Sadducees or the Pharisees, a lot of those things were off, right? So now that we can understand from like a negative standpoint, why it's important to or why the doctrine matters, we should now be able to perceive how or be able to put together why a doctrine is true or false, right? Because not just false, not being able to point out a false doctrine, but we should be able to point out a true doctrine, right? So let's go to the Bible, what the Bible calls as the standard. All right, let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 8. We're gonna go to verse 20.
God. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Con. Right. So, if, certain brothers, that are teaching, if they aren't speaking in accordance to the law, in the testimony, there's no light in them. Right. And this has to be our standard, in determining if a doctrine is in step with the scriptures, and just to prove, because I've heard some, certain brothers try to play a little game with this. Let's prove what the testimony is, because no one should fight that this law is talking about the law of the Most High, that it gave to Moses, right? But the testimony, some people, they might play a game. So let's go to the word testimony in the Hebrew. All right. We look at this word for testimony. It's a thaywadah, right? And when you look at biblical usage, we see testimony, attestation, confirmation, prophetic injunction. All right. And that's a clean saying, right? So we see it's referring, to prophetic injunction, which are words or warnings from the prophets, right? And that's, of, what the law and the testimony is going into, Moses, and what the prophets wrote, but if a doctrine doesn't walk in step, with the scriptures, the law and the prophets, and Yahushua included, then we have to reject it, right? And the apostles, just to add on, because it's not just Yahushua saying the doctrine matters, but the apostles, they teach, brothers and sisters, to beware and guard themselves, from people in their doctrines as well, right? Just to show that, let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 16 and verse 17.
God. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them.
So the Apostle Paul, he said to mark, or pay attention, because that word mark, I believe, is the word scopeo, and it just means, to pay attention or to scope out, anyone that causes divisions and stumbling, which is contrary to the doctrine that you've learned, and make sure to avoid them. All right, but let's look at this in the NLT. Con, if you could read in the NLT.
Con. And now I make one more appeal, my dear brothers and sisters. Watch out for people who cause divisions and upset people's faith by teaching them things contrary to what you have been taught. Stay away from them.
Con. Right. So, it's a wisdom, to beware, of the doctrine, because the Bible teaches us that the doctrine does matter. Right. So if, anyone tries to, to sell you the idea, that all that matters is that, hey, we're just all Israel, and, things like that, and that the doctrine doesn't matter, you have to beware of that person, because the Bible, from the front, to the back teaches that the doctrine does matter. Right. Let's go to the book of 2 John chapter 1. And if you could you read verse 7 on down to 9?
For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Hamashiach Yahushua is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. Look to yourselves that we lose not those things which we have wrought, but that we will receive a full reward. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Yahushua have not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Yahushua, he have both the Father and the Son.
Come. Right, so we learn that, the one that doesn't confess Yahushua, has came into the flesh, or came here in the flesh, is an antichrist, right? And by proxy, an antichrist, they don't abide in the doctrine of Yahushua, right? But let's just real quick, just to speak to the doctrine of Yahushua, let's look at, something that Yahushua taught and affirmed himself. Let's go to the book of Matthew 16. 16 and 13. If you could you read verses 16 through 13? So like verses 13 through 17. Yeah, 13 through 17.
And I'm gonna make a point real quick too. Just like the brother brought out about the Sadducees, and he went into showing, what doctrines they believed and what they were teaching. When some people, at this day and age, when they hear that you say, hey, we're supposed to keep the law, they say, oh, they Pharisees and Sadducees. That lets you know they don't even know what they're talking about. Because we believe and know that you're supposed to keep the law, but we also teach about the resurrection of Yahushua. We also teach about the teachings of Yahushua. We also believe in predestination because it's in the Bible. So we wouldn't qualify as Pharisees and Sadducees because they didn't believe in those things. They just believed solely you were saved by keeping commandments. That was the way you were going to be saved. And that's why they got rebuked. And we don't teach that. But let me go ahead and get to the reading. It says, when Yahushua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the anointed, the Son of the living God. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven.
Khan. So Yahushua, he asked Peter, who did he believe he was? And Peter said, the anointed or the Messiah and the Son of God. And Yahushua says that the Most High has revealed this fact to him. So the Lord would have taught or affirmed that he was the Messiah and the Son of God, right? Now let's show that he also taught to keep the commandments, or keeping the commandments was the way to enter into life. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 19. We're going to start at 16. We're going to go on down to 17.
Con. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is, God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments.
Con. And that's a very plain saying and teaching. And you will be surprised, of how many people try to say, oh, well, he didn't say there's certain commandments he left out. But Yahushua, he's not going to quote to somebody, literally every single thing that's in Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy just on the spot. He's just going to simplify by saying, keep the commandments, but, this is a proof and a showing that Yahushua taught, first that, or he affirmed and taught that he was the Son of God and the Messiah, and that, you have to keep the commandments, to enter into life or to inherit eternal life. All right, but let's go back to 2 John, chapter 1. All right. Can you read verse 9 on down to 11?
Con. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Yahushua, Salaki, the anointed, have not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of the anointed, he have both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds.
So, basically it's speaking to the point that, whoever doesn't abide and transgresses the doctrine of Yahushua, who's the anointed, that person doesn't have the Most High, but them that do, or them that do abide in and follow the doctrine of Yahushua, they have both the Son and the Father, right? And whoever comes around you, don't receive them, meaning don't let them come in your house, or, don't let them come around to where you meet at, right? And don't even bid them Godspeed, so that means you're not even supposed to salute these types of people, right? You're not supposed to make them feel comfortable, about what they push and how they live, right? And real quick, let's read this in the NLT.
It's finna get nasty.
God.
Anyone who wanders away from this teaching has no relationship with God, but anyone who remains in the teaching of the anointed has a relationship with both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to your meeting and does not teach the truth about the anointed, don't invite that person into your home or give any kind of encouragement. Anyone who encourages such people becomes a partner in their evil work.
All right, so we can't be enabling people, to walk in error, right? Like we can't allow people to, come around us, be down with us and things of those sort, and they're not walking and abiding in the doctrine of Yahushua. We're not supposed to just like, hey, like, and everything is cool, but we're supposed to rebuke our neighbor, right? Yahushua or Slaki, Yahweh tells us, literally that commandment in the law, right? Let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17.
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him.
Con. So, the law, it speaks plainly, right? It says, don't hate your people by telling them or letting them be in error, but reprove them and restore them. All right. Let's read, let's go to the book of Titus, chapter 2 and 1. Right. It's the book of Titus, chapter 2, verse 1. If you could you bring it out?
Con. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine.
Con. And that's an excellent wisdom, that the Apostle Paul, he gives to Titus, right? He says to speak things or teach things that are sound doctrine, right? And when you go into the word for sound, it just means, without error, right? So in other words, we're supposed to speak as the oracles of God, anytime, we're conversing and we have any type of, conversation and things of that sort, right? But we're not supposed to, be a safe haven, for sinners and false doctrine, to dwell at, right? We understand that, the sick, they need a physician, and teaching is one thing, but just being an enabler, that's a totally different thing, right? But this is just been a showing of how it's important and how the Bible shows that the doctrine does matter, right? And with that, I'm gonna give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh. I'm gonna do so by Shem Yahweh Shai, and I'm gonna open it up, to the brothers, if they got anything.
Good lesson, very good lesson.
All praises.
Good lesson, brother. I like the precepts, good edification. And hopefully the body was edified by that. That was very beautiful, brother.
All praises.
I guess I can bring a precept out. 2 Timothy 4.
I'll bring it out for you.
And just verse 3 and 4.
It's the book of 2 Timothy chapter 4, starting at verse 3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables.
So, we're at a time where people, they don't want to endure sound doctrine, because sound doctrine actually makes you do something. You actually gotta put work in, and you actually gotta be faithful to the Most High. But that's why people be like, oh, you ain't gonna get salvation by your works. And that's a lie. When we look at scripture, it say we gotta have faith and we gotta have works. But it's so comfortable to just do the bare minimum, and that's what people want to do. They don't want to have to put no work in and actually show their love to the Most High. So this is definitely the times that we're living in, the time where they won't endure this sound doctrine. And if they hear you talking about you got to keep these commandments, they don't want to hear you. They want to listen to somebody else that's telling them, oh, it's going to be okay. Oh, God going to prosper you. That prosperity doctrine, that feel good doctrine. He love you no matter what you do. Lying to the masses. But that's pretty much it.
And that's a beautiful point, man. Yeah, but if there'll be nothing further, man, I could close it out.
Oh my God, you gotta be laughing.
It doesn't matter what I did. God, man. No, but that was a beautiful point you brought up. But yeah, if there'll be nothing further, I'll close it out with number 6. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I'll say shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, fam.